The last time you left your house for a few days, the birds in your yard may have noticed before you even locked the door and drove away. Not when the feeder ran out of seed. Not when the yard became quieter. Much earlier than that. They noticed the small things people usually ignore. The kitchen light didn't turn on at the usual time. The back door never opened that morning. The familiar figure that normally appeared by the window never showed up. And the moment that familiar rhythm was broken, something quietly began to happen. What happens when you disappear isn't random. It's not some automatic survival mode. For many backyard birds, especially the ones that spend a lot of time around people, your absence creates a very specific change in their daily world. What's fascinating is that some birds can tell the difference between you being gone for the day and you being gone for several days. Some birds don't just remember your face. They remember when you usually appear. They remember patterns, timing, routines. And the longer you're gone, the more their behavior begins to reveal. Today we're going to look at what actually happens in your yard when you're not there. What changes on the very first morning? How behavior shifts by day 2 and day 3. But the real changes begin around day 2 and day 3. At that point, birds aren't just checking anymore. They're updating. Try seeing it from the perspective of a small bird in your yard. For weeks, maybe months, a food source appeared on a predictable schedule. Same place. Same time. Same signals. Same outcome. Then suddenly, one day, nothing happens. Day 2, still nothing. Day 3, nothing again. And eventually, the bird's brain starts treating this as more than a temporary interruption. Here's the strange part, birds don't come back less because they forgot. They come back less because they remembered. That sounds backwards, but it makes sense. Memory doesn't just help animals find reliable places. It also helps them avoid wasting energy on places that are no longer reliable. And for birds, energy matters. An unnecessary flight. A wasted wait. A few extra minutes spent every day. All of it has a cost. So after several days without the expected result, the feeder that once sat at the top of the list begins moving down. Not disappearing completely. Just no longer being the first stop. But what's interesting is that the rest of the yard stays the same. The shrubs are still there. The water sources are still there. The favorite branches are still being used. Their territory hasn't disappeared. Only one very specific part of the map has changed. The part connected to you. You were once a reliable, predictable presence in their world. And now that part has gone quiet. That might explain why people sometimes return home after a long trip and feel something strange. The yard looks the same. Everything is still there. But somehow, it feels emptier. The truth is, the birds never really left. They simply changed their route. And this is where things become even more surprising. Because for years, we may have misunderstood something. Most people assume birds come back because of food. But science suggests the story may be much more complicated. Some birds don't just remember locations. They remember people. Not people in general. You. They remember the sound of the door. Your footsteps. Your voice. The time you usually appear. Repeated interactions over months or even years. Things that seem tiny to us may become meaningful signals in a bird's world. Every morning when you step outside, you're not just feeding birds. You're creating a sequence of repeated signals. And over time, that sequence becomes part of the stability of their world. When you disappear, the memory doesn't disappear with you. It stays there. Like a file left open. Like something unfinished. And if your absence lasts more than a week, things enter an entirely different phase. Now it's no longer, maybe they'll come back tomorrow. Now it becomes, maybe things have changed. In nature, food sources appear and disappear all the time. Seasons change. Conditions change. Animals adapt. And slowly, the yard begins adapting too. New birds show up. Some move elsewhere. Routes change. Patterns shift. But among all those changes, something interesting happens. Not every bird leaves at the same speed. Only to come back again later. Almost as if they're still investing a small amount of hope that something familiar might return. And eventually, one day, you come back. And birds probably don't recognize you the way most people imagine. Not from far away. Not just from your face. What they may recognize first is a combination of signals arriving together. The kitchen light. The sound of the back door opening. Footsteps on the porch. A familiar shape. The rhythm of a morning repeated hundreds of times before. And sometimes, before you've even touched the feeder, familiar visitors begin showing up. One lands on the same old branch. Another appears on the fence. Then another arrives. Not all at once. And that's what makes it interesting. The birds that knew you before often show up first. Because for them, the thing that just returned wasn't the food. It was you. And this may be the most emotional part of all. Because some birds can remember far longer than we once believed. There have been cases where birds continued returning to familiar places long after the people who fed them were no longer there. Because birds don't understand moving away. They don't understand loss. They don't understand permanent absence. What they understand is simpler. A familiar rhythm stopped. A familiar figure stopped appearing. Something that always happened, suddenly didn't. So they keep checking. They return to the same branch. Watch the same door. Wait a little longer. Then leave. Because somewhere in their memory, the file still hasn't closed. So next time you come home after being away for a few days, watch carefully. Watch the first bird that appears. Watch the one landing on the familiar branch. Watch the one returning before you even refill the feeder. Because maybe it isn't random movement after all. Maybe what you're seeing is a memory that quietly stayed active the entire time you were gone. The yard stayed. The birds stayed. And in their own way, maybe they remembered you too.